example to write as powers of 2. Okay, let me remind you of the powers of 2. So 2 to the power of 1 is 2, 2 to the power of 2 is 2 times 2 is 4, 2 to the power of 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, 2 to the power of 4 is twice as much, so it's 16, so it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and well, so on. We can go on further, like 2 to the power of 5 should be twice as much, which would be 32, and so on. Okay, we can go on like that forever. You can use your calculator to evaluate these powers, or you can just calculate in your memory like that. Okay, so let's start with part A. In part A, we have to replace 16 as a power of 2. So you already know from what I showed you just now that 2 to the power of 4 is 16, so you just write it as 2 to the power of 4, and that's it. In part B, we have to rewrite 1 over 16 using the power of 2. So 1 over 16 is, well, you can use 1 over, and then 16 is 2 to the power of 4. And if you invoke the law that says that 1 over a to the power of n is just a to the power of negative n, you can invoke this law at this moment, what you get is 2 to the power of negative 4. The reason for that your base here is a, n corresponds to 4, and therefore you have your base 2 raised to the power of minus your exponent, so it's 2 to the power of negative 4. Okay, now let's do part C. In part C we have just number 1. Number 1 is 2 to the power of 0, and the reason for that is that a to the power of 0 is always 1 for a's different from 0. So in our case the base here is 2. 2 is different from 0, so therefore 2 to the power of 0 has to be 1. Now let's do part D. Okay, 4 times 2 to the power of n, and we should replace it using or writing it as powers of 2. So what to do? Number 4 here, according to this list, is 2 to the power of 2, and you multiply it by 2 to the power of n. Now, if you invoke the law that a to the power of n times a to the power of m equals a to the power of n plus m, in this case a corresponds to 2, it's the base, n is 2, and while m is this n here, what you get is 2 raised to the power of 2 plus n. Okay, so this should be the answer for part B. You can write it also as 2 to the power of n plus 2. You can exchange the order of these two without any effect on the value of the expression. Now part E. In part E we have 2 raised to the power of m divided by 8. Now again, using this list here, you can see that 2 to the power of 3 is 8, so it's 2 to the power of m divided by 2 to the power of 3. Now you can use the law that a to the power of m divided by a to the power of n is a to the power of m minus n. This time the base a corresponds to 2, m is m, and n is 3, and therefore you have 2 to the power of m minus 3. And this brings us to the end of this exercise.